Welcome to tonight's edition of Healing Conversations with me, Antabi Singwepe. This is the show where we tap into your mental space, where we encourage conversations around mental and wellness, and we advocate for seeking help towards mental wellness. Remember, if you're not in your mental capacities fully, you operate at below maximum potential. Tonight, I'm joined by an extraordinary man with an extraordinary story. And the resemblance in his story and mine is that he's a single father. And much like myself, who was brought up singularly by my father, I'm taken down memory lane. He's a parent, he's an author, he's a winemaker, an entrepreneur. He's Mr. Patrick Neo Mabiletsa. Thank you so much for joining me this evening.
That's quite an intro. Thank you, Sis Ntavi. I appreciate you.
I'm interested in finding out, firstly, raising a daughter. How are you coping with that?
Coping, right? Coping, I think, is the right word. Because sometimes, we think we got it, but we realize that, we are coping, and it's going well. And right now, it's going fantastically well. I'm enjoying being a dad. She's 12 now. Like I said, well, for the first 3 months, I always say this, the first 3 months were a nightmare, right? And she wasn't sleeping, man, and I had to wake up in the morning and go to work. She was sleeping at 2 a.m. At 5 a.m. she's awake, It was a job and a half. But, God got us through that. Today she's 12. She's amazing. If I don't want to talk to her, she just sits there and play by herself. So I think we're doing great.
A single dad at your age, people are looking at you and thinking, why are you subjecting yourself to this? Did you not have the option of giving your daughter over to her maternal side of the family, family or the paternal grandparents, your parents, in fact, to help you raise the children? It's rare these days that you would find a man who says that, despite the loss of my wife, and that's what we're going to talk about, I'm raising my children. Here I am on a day-to-day basis. Let's do this.
Options are always there, but you look at why they want to take or why they want to help with the child, right? So I don't have parents, and I haven't had parents for 20 years, over 20 years. And so I couldn't take her to my parents. But before her mother passed away, when she was in hospital, she said to me, dude, just don't take her to my parents. Raise her yourself. If you need help, ask for help. Obviously, we had a church, and our church is not big, so everybody was hands-on. Everybody knows what's happening in everybody's life, so they were there and helping out. So the reason I didn't take her there, the in-laws and the drama that happened there, we won't get into that. But the mere fact that things were not well between the in-laws and me, I couldn't take her there, which I did later on though. But when she was 10 days old until she was 6 years old, I stayed with her.
That's a brave decision. In your book, you've got a chapter, and you say in the chapter 8, your death brought me to my knees. And you're speaking on the passing of your wife. How long had you been married when you lost your wife?
Sure. We were extremely happy with my wife, right? So I met her, I never get this year straight. I think it was 2007. We got engaged in 2008. We met around September 2007. We got engaged around September 2008. We got married in September 2009. And the following year, September 2010, we buried her. So we were only married for 1 year.
In a short space of time, you meet the love of your life, you commit to her. And, in no time, life changes for you. Now, you have a child, she falls pregnant, you have a child. And while you're celebrating the birth of your baby girl, things drastically change. What happened?
In a split second. You know when you say like this, just changed. And I was so happy. I was comfortable. We both had good jobs. Everything was going well. And we looked forward to having a child after we got married. It was one of those stories, you know, when you watch a movie and things are just going, falling into place, and you wonder, you know, man, what did I do to deserve this? And when it ended, oh, it was one of those moments where the shame and the did I pray enough? I mean, what's wrong with me? I lost my mother, I didn't know my father. And I said to myself, I'm going to have myself a family.
Your own family.
I said to myself, no, I'm doing the things right. I'm going to church. You know, I'm tithing. I'm doing everything right. And I'm not having a child before.
Wedlock.
Yeah. And I did that. I got married. We had a child the same year. And my wife passed away. And I had questions to say, God, you know, what is the use of doing the right thing if you're still going to end up here anyway? You know, I didn't have a family of my own. I was trying to start a family of my own, and this is happening. I was shattered.
You mentioned shame. What shame is it? Is it the shame that you know, I had it all, and now I lost it all, and I can't bear to face people. So you walk around with, you know, your head hanging because you feel that people are pointing at you. You know, is it also partly guilt? You know, if we hadn't had a child, maybe she would be alive?
That question, yes. Let me first answer you on the other one. So when, you know how we walk around when we're married, right? Especially in church, you know, they ask you to come take the tithe and offering. When they're looking for a youth leader, they come to you first. I was that guy, right? I was a youth leader, and I was booming, and everything was going.
You were exemplary.
Yeah, pastor came to our house to eat, you know, because we're married. He came to our house with his family to eat lunch or Christmas lunch. You know, everything was just perfect. And now everything, all those things, you know, first, you're obviously going to be taken off the youth, you know, because obviously that will affect you. All those things. I just looked around and I just wondered. I wonder what people are saying. And sometimes it's not that people are saying things. It's just when you're thinking, well, I wonder what people are saying now. And that is the shame that I dragged around. And yes, and I hope my daughter won't watch this. When you asked me if she didn't have a child, she would still be alive. And I wished we had more years together. But I remember there was one time, a year before we got married, she had gallbladder stones. And she went for an operation. Well, during that operation, after they operated her, she couldn't wake up. You know, she was basically dead. And she said there was another Christian woman in the room. She prayed, then she came back. So when I asked her, you must remember at that time when she was doing her operation, when she couldn't wake up, when they were about to pronounce her dead, I was waiting for her in the parking lot, you know. And when she woke up, I asked her, she told me the story, and I asked her, so why did you come back? Then she said, I'm not leaving this earth until I give you a baby, you know. And we got married. Then immediately after that, she gave me a baby. She kept telling me things, and I thought it was medication. She knew that she wasn't going to live. She kept telling me things. Do it, your father's surname is this. Go look for your father. And I said, Ahmed, it's medication. Just calm down.
This is freshly from the birth.
Yeah. We'll talk about it when you come out of the hospital. But when she passed, I just said, she knew.
She knew. And one of the interesting things that you speak about, it's the fact that you seem to have lost so much. You didn't only lose your spouse, but you lost so much. from the fact that, you know, how the church perceived you, you know, they're thinking, or the fear even that I will be, you know, not good now for some responsibilities in the church, simply because I had lost my marital status. And how, you know, take me through that process. You know, how was it really fear? Was it really just your own thinking? Was it really influenced perhaps by what you saw happening around you?
In most cases, it's our thinking, right? This one thing that I always say is, remember, when you lose your spouse, some of your screws in the head, you lose them, right? That's why the first week after somebody dies, people can come and do whatever. People came into my house and took stuff, and I was just looking at them like this. I wasn't even aware what was happening. My sister-in-law was the one fighting for me. But story for another day. So there's this voices in your head that are telling you things are like this now. Hey, Baba, you know, you thought that you were this man. Things are like this now, and I don't think that the church is prepared. The church doesn't know how to deal with death, right? And it's not their fault.
Yet we preach so much about what happens beyond death.
If I come to you and I say, Sister Ntadu, can I just sit with you and tell you how I'm feeling? And then you're throwing me with verses and verses and verses. I don't want to hear that. I just want to sit there and tell you, yo, today I'm not okay. Drink Coca-Cola and sit. Don't ask me questions. I don't want that. I just want to sit there, you know, because I'm feeling like that today.
So sometimes you want a place where you can sit in my company in silence. And that is enough for your mental health.
It is.
To get you through what you're going on, what you're going through that day. And yes, some days you want a realistic approach. You want to tell me, I'm not well. You know, I miss my wife today. I feel very lonely today. And you don't want me to tell you that, blessed is the righteous, for they have found company in Christ.
Exactly. Like, my pastor always says there's time for preaching and there's time for talking, right? People want to preach at us. And one of the reasons I wrote the book was people kept saying to me, time will heal you, you know, or move on, or find another one, you know. And I remember.
Is this what people were saying to you? Find another one.
Let me tell you about that. I walked into my workplace to sign documents, right? And there was this old lady that we used to talk sometimes, and she said to me, don't worry, you'll find another one. It broke me. I never forgot that.
It would.
And some people in church were like, you know, it's time for you to take another wife, right? And people think that replacing
a human being.
Yeah. People think that replacing somebody, saying, I'm going to get married again, is going to heal you. You must remember, they give you 1 year. You know, they say, oh, there's a baby. They give you pressure. You know, you need to find a mother for a baby. But the truth is, you can never find a replacement for your child. You can never find a replacement for somebody that is dead. You can get married again, right? But it's not a replacement. It's
another journey.
Changing and getting into another journey. Yeah.
Your wife passed when your baby was just a day old. Few days old. And you know, how do you comprehend that? Because, you know, for us as women, you look forward to having a baby. It's a joyous moment. But no one thinks, I'm not going to make it out of this. And let alone our spouses, you know, our husbands never think, she's not going to make it out of this. So how do you begin to comprehend that? How do you even process that?
I was not ready. I remember a year before, there's a friend of mine who was a lady. I used to work with her, and then she said to me, she was pregnant at that time. And then she said to me, something is going to happen to your wife. I want us to pray for her. Let's pray with her, you know. I thought it was just one of those people who were being weird, right? She then gave birth through cesarean a month before the child was supposed to come. And exactly 10 days, she came to work they were doing these things that they do for women. showers.
Yes.
Yes. She came to work, we greeted her once, she left. Exactly 10 days after giving birth, she passed away. And immediately when they said she passed away, I remembered what she said to me, right? But because we believe that if we think about something, it's going to happen. So I said, let me push it out of my mind. So I wasn't ready, I wasn't prepared. The following year, it was me, it happened to me. And one thing that I said was caught off guard. When you're married and you have beautiful house, you have cars that are paid up, you're not thinking about, your prayer life should be this way. You just go to church, you pray, God, help us. Thank you so much for all the blessings. You don't go into warfare because, you think that life is just perfect. And I wasn't ready at that moment when it happened. My worry is I wish that I was ready at that time. But something is destined to happen. It will happen.
Spiritually, were you also not ready spiritually?
I thought I was, right? Because man, I was on fire, right? I was on fire
For the Lord.
I was getting people saved almost every weekend. We believe in outreach. I was getting people saved and, praying. And I was involved in church almost 4 times a week. We go to church, And sometimes we think that going to church and being involved is enough. But when I look at it, I wasn't that bad spiritually. I was okay. It wasn't. Sometimes we are okay with just not committing sin. We are okay with being that husband that your wife wants and that the Bible commands. You're okay with that and you're content with that. We forget that there's a peaceful side to Christianity and there's a warfare side to Christianity. The devil wants to break you down, especially when you get married. He hates marriage and he wants to finish you off. He's looking at you one moment, he wants to finish you off, And to answer your question, I think I was okay spiritually. I was doing okay. But afterwards, everything has changed.
What changed? As you say, and it all changed. You thought you were okay, and it all changed.
Everything. Everything changed, right?
I can see it's still very emotional. And
there are people that love you because you are, sorry, something is coming out. There are people that love you because you are with a particular person, right?
Yes.
And I remember, I've never said this on television. I've been interviewed about this book so many times. This is the first time I'm going to say it, I remember my family, the in-laws asked that I'm from Brits originally. So my late wife was from Mpumalanga. My in-laws asked if they could bury her there because we didn't grow up going to the graveyard and everything, and they wanted to take care of the grave. I went home to talk to my family, and they refused. So I said, look guys, I was just here doing a formality. I'm going to allow it to happen because also my daughter visits there, And then they said to me that we will disown you. If you do that, we'll disown you as a family. My whole family didn't come to the funeral, right? And it was at that moment where I looked around and it was just the people from Mpumalanga. Obviously people from my church, a couple of people from my church with 3 cars, they came. And I think seeing the people from my church was a relief. I was alone there, the questions I was asked, and they were nice people, but if your family is not there, you don't feel like that, and for many years, and I want to say this to many Christians who lose their spouses. Many Christians who lose their spouses. My family forced me, after not coming to the funeral, my family forced me to do rituals, knowing exactly that I'm a Christian. They put so much fear in me, they said to me that after 1 year, if you don't go Oloshapa, if you don't go wash, whatever, after 1 year, you are going to die. And I lived with that fear for a whole year. It was so painful to see myself spending money, opening life covers for my daughter, spending money trying to make myself happy.
Out of fear?
Because I thought I was going to die. And I remember one aunt of mine said to me, dude, just do it once. Nobody will know. And I remember saying to her, but I will know. And I said to her, if dying for Jesus if it comes to dying for Jesus, then I'll do it, right? And I did it, you know. Nobody spoke to me for the whole year. It was tough. I needed them. They were not there. On the eve of that, on exactly the same week of that, two guys broke into our house. I was sleeping. My daughter was in her cot. They broke into her house, to the house. I'm sure they wanted television and stuff. I didn't have a television, but I had a laptop that was sitting there. And we fought them off. They had a gun. They shot one bullet. I thought they shot me. But, you know, God saved me that day. And after God saved me, I went back to them and I said, you know what? Everything that the world teaches you doesn't really matter. What you believe is what matters. You know, and I believed that God was going to protect me. But later when I realized that I actually almost died, I said, you know what, fear can take your life away. Believing in God is the one thing that you should do, because God will never let you down. But family can, and they will, because they're people.
That's true. In your most critical hour of need, you find yourself abandoned, so to speak. And you just went through a loss. And you need comfort. And you need the comfort also of familiarity, you know, that will be offered by the presence of your family. What does that sense of abandonment do, you know, to you mentally, emotionally? You know, burying your wife without any sense of support?
So, let me take the story from the beginning, right? When a month, let's say 2 weeks before my wife gave birth, I was sick with bronchitis. I was coughing and I was coughing. And I said to her, let me sleep in the spare room, you know. And she said, no, what if you get sick too much at night? And she was already big and I can't come to you. And she said, sleep here, right? And I went to the doctor and I felt better. But after I felt better, she got sick. She caught it, right? And after catching it, we went to the doctor to say, yo, she's pregnant. And the doctor said, I can only give her small medicine because she's pregnant. I can't give her anything strong. So she wasn't getting better, right? And because of that, as she was coughing, she was bleeding. We phoned the gynecologist to say she's bleeding. He said, is it bleeding or spotting? And then she looked and she said, no, it's spotting. Then he said, okay, if it bleeds, let me know. That was 10 a.m., around 10 in the morning. In the afternoon, we said, dude, the bleeding is not stopping. He said, come to the hospital, right? And everything that led there was somebody in her family said to me, if you didn't get sick, she would still be alive, you know. So basically, they were blaming me. And at that moment, I needed my family. And my family wasn't there. And when I was alone, I was feeling, it must be true. That means I killed her then. Because everybody's just running away from me.
The guilt.
Yeah. And I remember the day of the funeral, my pastor tapped me in the back. He was sitting with us in the tent. He tapped me in the back and he said to me, no, you do understand it's not your fault, right? And I didn't tell him that. And he said that to me. My heart was relieved, you know. I said, everybody will come back. Exactly a year after they thought I was going to die, I started getting phone calls and texts. They were probably checking if I was alive. Yeah.
Now, as a man, you know, with your own experience, would you say that you were somewhat prepared to raise a child?
No.
On your own?
No. I never imagined that. I never imagined, because I thought to myself, I'm a good guy, right? Why would God do that to me? I'm a good guy. I go to church, I pray, I tithe. That's what we all think. As Christians, we think, I'm a good guy, I'm a good person. God will never let that happen. But God always has a purpose and a plan. I'm here today because I lost a wife, right? I've been all over because I lost a wife, and I talk about it. And the first time I heard somebody says, Nell, when I was coaching them, Nell, since my husband passed away, I've never slept like this before. And I knew that there was a purpose and a plan.
all that,
it, yeah. But when something like that happens, we're not ready. We don't prepare for it. Nobody wants to be. Nobody wants to be a single parent. I came from single parent home. It was hard. No matter how much you make, one income, and that money is also one of the causes of stress and depression and everything else. Even if you earn 100,000 rand and the other person earns 20,000 rand, when that 20,000 rand goes, the other one
do feel the pinch.
So everything that I wasn't prepared for just happened. But God got me through it.
Get yourself a copy of our latest books, The Mending of a Broken Vessel and Maintaining Your Joy, a journal for daily positive living. Visit a bookstore near you.